Hi everyone, I'm Tom and today I'm going to be showing you Ascendancy, which is a great big game of exploration, combat against creatures and depending on the mode you're playing, perhaps the other players. Building, fortifying and questing, which is on Kickstarter right now. I'll put a link to the campaign page in the corner of the screen and in the description so you can check out the final page, see all of the stuff that's going to be available. I have a prototype here that should be quite representative of the final thing, but things may change as they go along. So in Ascendancy, you can pick from loads of different scenarios, and in those scenarios, different modes of playing. So it can be a competitive, combative area control game. It can be a fully cooperative game. It can be a solo game, which is what I've got it set up as here, but that is at least partly for space reasons, just so I don't have to zoom out anymore. Depending on your player count as well, you might have one or more Nemesis players taking the spot of normal players to tighten things up, both in the world for the area control itself, in the worker placement spots, but we'll see all of that as we get into it. Players will choose a house from the 4 that are available. I've gone for House Roberts here because they're piratey, but it could have been House Valis, House Khan, or House Raspute. The house boards are all divided into 4 sections that correspond to those big trays and also respond to different attributes that we have. So as House Roberts, I start off with 2 cunning, 0 might, and 1 intellect. 2 coins, some food that will help me explore and pay for mercenaries perhaps, or that will help me build, and knowledge that will help me pay for things, help me unlock things on my player board. Start off with a meeple of each type. From bird's eye view, you can't really see them that well, but hey, there are the outcasts. There is a labourer, there's a loyalist, and there is a lord. These are workers that are going to be placed on the main boards. And we start off in a starting position on an embarkment tile of our colour with a level 1 settlement on it. That's going to give us perhaps some loyalty points that are the points of the game, essentially. For a tier 1 settlement, though, I get nothing for that. Later on, though, hopefully it could get better and better. And you can either have standees or you can have minis. Now, for bird's eye purposes, I have gone for the standees for myself and the Nemesis, but the game is also going to come with minis that I have prototypes of here. And those minis are the characters that we can choose. They are the Nemesis we can play against. So it can be different setups based on the scenarios. It can be another side of the board. I've got it set up for scenario 0 here, which is kind of the tutorial, just because the Nemesis does very simple things in that. In a round, the first 4 steps are basically rolling a die and placing the meeples of the Nemesis. So we would roll 1 for the frontier phase. They'll place their outcasts. We know that because the different meeples correspond to the different phases. They'll place their outcast in the leftmost space of patron. So the worker placement spots are limited by the number of slots that are in there. Next, they would go in space 6, so gaining some knowledge. Then in space 2, doing some building, so only 1 person could build there this round. And finally, number 6, so that's perfect because in the tutorial, at least, if you don't roll a 6, you need to change it to a 6. And they go in this journey space. So that's going to be their priority, to explore and expand and stuff. In the story of it, we've got a prominent old advisor wants us to meet him in the center. We're all prominent houses, but yeah, that's our aim, to explore over there. So from then, after the Nemesis AI players are sorted, we take it in turns to place workers, and it's done in loyalty order here. If you're on top, you're in front. But since it's just a solo game, I just act after the Nemesis, so I can pick any of the available spaces. So we have a round of placing in the frontier phase, then we will resolve the locations of the frontier phase, then we will place in the supply phase, resolve all those places, and so on for all of the 4 phases. And they're done in reverse initiative order, so anyone revealing here gets first dibs of anything, and we work our way down. Now the way it works is I've got these 4 meeples, and they do correspond to those phases, but they can be placed kind of anywhere. It's just that the outcasts can only go on the frontier phase, number 1. The labourers can go in the supply phase, but they could also be placed in the frontier phase, so anything lower. The lords can go anywhere, but we'll just do 1 in each for now. So I can reveal creatures. We will eventually have to fight creatures, and it might help you to know what's in store. You can scout locations out without actually having to go over there to see if it's worth you going over there. That might be a really difficult check. You can get a consumable item from here that might really help you out in some way. You can construct one of your buildings, and you can do the patron action. Now, patron and build are on the first 3 phases. Build means build your building that corresponds to this phase. that we'll look at in a minute. And then patron means that you can use this action that's built in, this kind of tier 0 building, or you could use the ability of a building that you or any player has constructed. You have to pay some coins for other players' buildings. But I could examine some loot that I've collected in games where there's hidden information, like maybe traitors. You could look at someone's roll card, or you could heal up your champions a little bit. Let's just say I wanted to reveal a monster. So we resolve the locations. I would get to reveal a monster, and it's a wind djinn. So this is what I am going to face when I have to fight a creature. Over on my player board, I have spaces for my characters here, a front row and a back row, and I have an enemy front row and back row. We look at the icon here, so it's going to be intellect. So here would be strength, mighty enemies, but over in the back row is going to be some intellect. So if we were to fight another enemy, they would get in the way. But they go in the back row for now, and then we would work our way down. Oh, it's the Nemesis. They're just blocking off worker placements, but essentially they might get in the way of you being able to do things. They might discard things that you might have wanted, but sometimes they're just getting in the way, like here. Over in the supply phase, the same. Patron, we could invest some money at the bank. You could build your supply phase building here, or there are the 4 resources that we can get in the game. You can go on one of these spots and gain that resource. So I might want to gain myself some skill over here. Now, whenever you see kind of money or resources next to an action, like it's next to consumable item as well, you can at any point on your turn spend what's required. So 3 money to pick up a consumable item at any point. Placing it in the worker placement phase gets you that thing for free. But there is a kind of market system going on here, so when we resolve it, the Nemesis would discard a knowledge from the top row, because they don't need any kind of resources, and we would get a skill from the top row. But resources can also be bought and sold outside of worker placement. So you buy for the right-hand cost, and you can sell them for the left-hand cost. Obviously, they're going to make a profit. They're not going to give you as much as they're worth, and the return can get worse and worse as the resources get more and more scarce. In the academy phase, we can gain some influence. That can be a vital resource when we start leveling things up. You can also get this out of turn by paying a knowledge and a skill, which I do have. We could get an Ascendancy quest, which helps us get more and more valuable workers, and also gives us loyalty for ascending them. We can get hirelings that will help us in our fights. Can also pay to get them. You get a mana stone that's kind of a renewable resource. It comes back every round or decade, and some things require mana stones to use. And again, we can build or patron. You can clear off status effects from your characters, also look at some loot. And as people build buildings, you'll have more options with the patron action. I think I'm going to pick up an Ascendancy quest. So when you do this, you just draw the top one, and this tells me educate. You may patron the academy with a labourer. Ascend them as a loyalist. So in a future round now, I could patron my labourer here, where they're normally not allowed to go, and they'll come back as a loyalist. So I've got more flexibility in the future there. I don't have to be placing these 1 per board. If there's something I particularly want to do, I can save them until later on. And if I was to do that, I would flip this over, and I've gained a point. And over in the Empire phase, we can upgrade a settlement. So they start as tier 1. You've seen they're worth more points as they get leveled up. They'll be more secure and harder for other people to siege. So the action you can do here, you can conquer and siege, fight that monster that you know you're going to be up against, or you would draw random ones if you haven't revealed them yet. Or you can journey out and explore more on the map, which is what the Nemesis has done. The die that we put here tells us where the Nemesis is going to target. There's a little compass that tells us 6 is south. That's why by default in this particular scenario, they always do that, because they're trying to get to the middle for story purposes. So they draw a tile, they clear out the loot that would have been there, automatically pop a tier 1 settlement on there and move there. They don't do anything else with it. They gain loyalty though. It says for tier 1, that's 1 loyalty. If it was next to a red, it would be worth an extra 1, but it's not yet. That could change. And there are tiles that don't want to be next to particular colours of tiles and will be worth less loyalty. So that can play into, you might want to place things so that they're advantageous for you and will lose other players' points. So they would gain 1 for doing that. I'm second up in journey. So when players journey, they have to pay a food to be able to do it, to be able to travel this for every distance that they are journeying. So there's difficult terrain in between the hexes as well that will make it more expensive. You've got to pay a food, or you can get a mount that will help you out. And you standees can go on the mounts and stuff. But for now, I'm just paying the food and going out here. Players get to draw 2 tiles and keep 1. And I think I would go for Wood Home here. Place it towards the middle because that's where we want to go. I get this loot token, this level 2 magic loot token, but I don't know what it is on the other side. I've got to do one of the things that reveals it before I can gain that thing. So I might want to group them all up and do the enchanter that will reveal them all in one go. I move over here, but I don't get to place a settlement for free. I've got to gain my settlements. I've just got my starting one out here. When I do though, it wants to be next to blue, which is my starting tile. So it would be worth 2 + 1, 3. And if we could get more blues next to it, even more. So that would be it for the worker placement portion. Then we would have the decade end step. We would collect income. Based on your loyalty, you gain money. Based on the decade, you lose money. So I get plus nothing because I haven't got any loyalty, and then I would lose 1. So I'd have to lose a money from my treasury. We work out who gets the crown, the player who's got the most points, which is the Nemesis for now. And if we're playing competitive games, we resolve the current law. That might be different based on the scenario that you're playing. But here it says the crown and the player with the highest intellect gain a knowledge. If it's the same player, they gain a total of 1. That's the Nemesis. They don't gain resources, so they just stop us from doing that. We then reveal a new law, and the player with the crown gets to decide whether that comes in or not. The Nemesis always decides to establish the new law. Player with the lowest might, currently me with 0, must pay 2 to the crown. A Nemesis player will pay 2 from the bank. So if I can become the crown, that's 2 to myself. Or just don't be the player with the lowest might anymore, but that's probably a ways away. You then roll a skill check based on your current location. So we've got a d6, and the location tells you which of your stats it's going to be checking. So this is going to be my cunning, which at the moment is 2. That's its starting value. So I'll get to add 2 to my roll here. Oh, 6. Brilliant. So that's basically the best I could have rolled. I've got an 8. So here we go. We can reveal a monster. Now, the monsters that you're going to be fighting are basically limited by your empire here. I'm only going to be fighting 1 tier 1 monster. So I can't reveal anything else because that's all the fight is going to be now. So I kind of lose out on that. But I also, because I've rolled 7 or more, I get to apply a damage. So the Wind Djinn has got 4 health. I'll get to apply that damage to them. You get all your workers back, the decade advances, and then we go again. So an important thing, say in a future round, I can spend knowledge at any time to boost one of my skills. What if I want to boost my cunning, so I've got 3? Because there is a kind of rock, paper, scissors aspect to the types and the fighting, I know I'm against an intellect enemy, so cunning will be very useful against them. And that can play into if you're sieging other players' places, they've got certain types as well. So I'd like to have more cunning, but I could come to the frontier phase's build action. So I'd want to do a build action this time. And we can see over here, I can build my sky observatory in the frontier phase if I have got 3 or more cunning and I need to pay an ore. So that's what I've got. So I could build this. It tells me that I am going to get a point. So I can move up on there now. I'll get a bit of income, but the cost, the taxes of the empire as the decades go on increase. And then it tells me to establish. This sky observatory goes over to the frontier and is a building that people can use. So I'll just pop it on like that. So anyone doing the patron action here could scout within 1 range. That's put a new tile out and gain the loot token and draw a bonus loot. So an extra option, because there's only 1 person that could do that. Now suddenly there's more people that could do scouts. Could maybe entice other players in a multiplayer game, and I would get some money if they used my things. But the establish means we move this whole stack of stuff up to reveal this bottom tier, and we have got a skill tree basically for each of these places that can unlock various things. So I would want to also have a food available for this. I could pop a food in here and unlock my Sky Pirate. We'd come down here to the champion's place, and hey, my Sky Pirate's all ready to take, and pop my Sky Pirate in my front row. And now I've got someone that can fight the Wind Djinn. And there are also some more things that I could do. I can put influence in there to, if I've got an influence to spend, I can recruit an extra outcast, but my taxes, my costs are going to be increased by 1 every round from now on. But I'll have an extra worker to use. And I could spend a knowledge also to pop in this slot. You can see it says evasive maneuvers and Scoutmaster. Underneath my stack of buildings, I have all of the skills that correspond to this skill tree. I could then grab Scoutmaster and evasive moves and pick one of these things. So either at the start of your conquer action, so the combat that we're hoping to do, apply a dazzled to 1 enemy for every tier of your Sky Saloon, which I think means my observatory actually. So there are various status effects that we can get in this game. Dazzled would be all rolls are worse for this unit by up to 1 always, which is a good thing for combat. Or Scoutmaster, when you scout, which is the building that I've just put out, could help me do that, draw a consumable item, and your outcast acts as a lord in this slot. I think evasive maneuvers, dazzling my enemy. You wouldn't normally overlap all of this stuff, I'm just cramming it in as I say. So Scoutmaster is gone in this game, but there'll be more things to gain as we build more buildings, uncover these slots, slide this up more and find more things. You can see like it goes on like a tech tree, so from there I could choose either of these, but from then on I can just go up, could go across to here, but I'm making decisions that are going to evolve my house and my characters as we go on. And so for combat, my Lord could go in the Conquer stroke Siege section and we can have a look at some combat. So my Sky Pirate here has 2 energy and replenishes 2 every turn, so I can store some up if I want to. Has 3 initiative. People with cunning have usually got very good initiative. Has some attack abilities and some traits which will help defending. The Wind Djinn is only initiative 2, so I'll get to go first. Has 4 health, but has taken 1 damage thanks to that adventure roll. So I'm going first in this. I'll get to choose one of my attacks to do, or I could just save my energy if I really wanted to. So Blade Storm costs 3, but it does dazzle all of the enemies and then hits everyone for 2 damage. It's very powerful. We do know, though, that at the start of my Conquer action, I can apply a Dazzled to this Wind Djinn, so their rolls are going to be one worse forever as well. There's no way of getting rid of that for an enemy, and for when characters have got always, they have to go to locations to get rid of them. You know, the Enchanter's patron action is to get rid of all statuses. Or I could do Dual Shot, which only costs 2, which is fine by me. It does 1 damage twice, and we roll a die twice. So we have, as well, in this great big cardboard dice tower that we're going to be rolling things into. So we're attacking the Wind Djinn. We get a defense die. Everyone's got an attack and a defend die. So we drop that in the dice tower, and oh dear, it's a 6. So 6 for the Wind Djinn would normally be mitigate -1 damage taken. So they would basically defend the first dual shot. But all rolls are worse for this unit by up to 1. So this would actually get knocked down to a 5 because the Wind Djinn is dazzled and they wouldn't block it. So we would do a damage, pop another damage on the Wind Djinn. It's dual shot, so it happens twice. And a 1, that means they take an extra damage and are actually defeated. Okay, let's make that so that nothing happens. And we do 1 more damage so that I can show you them attacking. Too lucky in that roll. So I would have had my turn. It was a dual shot, which is why I went twice. The Wind Djinn would get to roll the attack die and see what's happening. Ooh, that would be quite bad. That is a 6. We can make this worse, but 5 is still Vortex. Apply freeze to each enemy unit. Oh dear, I'd be frozen. I can't act until I skip my next attack. Now, if I'd left myself with some energy, I could use one of my tactics. Fend, the next damage taken is reduced by 1. You can pay for this as you take in damage as well. Or riposte, after an enemy attacks, roll a counter attack, but take an additional damage. So the Djinn wouldn't have done any damage to me there, but it's frozen me, made me skip my next action, so they would get to act again. A 2 would mean 1 damage, ignoring any armor that I had, because different types of enemies, this is a cunning enemy, so he's very fast. You could get, might enemies that can generate armor for themselves and stuff, but that 2 would get made 1 worse to waver. Really important to dazzle them if you can. But it's all a moot point because we got a lucky roll and did 4 damage straight away. Thanks to the adventure roll a bit. So we can come to the Empire phase here. When we are conquering, we need to defeat a tier 1 monster, which we would have just done. We gain all of this stuff. A loot token, a point, 2 money, and a settlement. We can then place that settlement in our new place, start earning points from this. So we get a point for the combat, and then the place itself is 2 plus 1 because it's next to a blue. Suddenly we're on 5 points and 5 income. We've got loot tokens to get revealed. We're rolling in it. We probably have educated and got a better worker as well. But that's not all. You grab this Empire card, flip it around. Siege mode, a passive enhancement. Your conquer can destroy a rival settlement within 1. Don't have to be on it. And this slides up. You don't have to be keeping your resources here. I'm just doing it for cramming everything in. And hey, we have suddenly got stuff here. We could be paying a food to get a foreign champion. We could go through and grab a champion that matches a type of terrain that we control. So we could go and find a green champion to join our team now. We only have 2 people, but they can be replaced. And if we had a knowledge to spend, we could get lighthouses, which lets us draw tiles, and we keep these as a separate supply and can decide which ones to place when we journey rather than letting it be random. And again, it's another tech tree that will just expand and expand. We can spend influence here to turn a loyalist into a lord, so it can go anywhere. We can do that each time as well. You can make champions ascend, so the Sky Pirate could transform into the Admiral of Skywatch, Captain of the Sky Observatory. Gets an extra health, gets an extra initiative to just be all around better at fighting. But we also now see that the Empire card has changed, and to get to tier 2, we need to fight 2 tier 1 enemies or a tier 2 enemy. This one's been defeated and would go away. You can also hire mercenaries. You get their cards face down like in your area, and if you can pay the food, you get them for the round, so they could help you fight as well. But we're basically trying to make our way to the middle in this starting scenario. Stop! Spoiler alert! Okay, I just blunder in to a big spoiler here, admittedly for the tutorial campaign, but spoiler nonetheless. But if you would like to see kind of the culmination of a scenario, then keep watching for this bit. I think that is sufficient spoiler warning time. If you're still watching, I assume you would like to see what happens at the end of this scenario. So let's go. At which point the Archvisor reveals that he's horrible after all. He's the Mad Vizier. He gets 3 health per player, so that's 3 for me, plus 1 for every point that he's got. He's only got 3 points at the moment, just because of the tiles that he drew, and it's only a starting scenario, so he's got 6 health, and works like a normal enemy, so we would then have to have a fight against the Mad Vizier, and my evasive moves would not work against them. I've only got a level 1 Sky Observatory. That's a boss. The Mad Vizier has 3 influence, 4 if you're playing on hard, gets 4 per player on hard as well, health. And they get to fight twice. So we can say, I'll roll the dice and, a 5. Charm does a damage to my Sky Pirate because they're in the front row. Unless I want to spend an action point, defending from that, but I kind of want to save that too to be doing my dual shot. Disorient, I can't use tactics or roll resists. So I can't even defend against it, actually. They would get to roll again, and this time just a 4. A spin which hits everyone. The boss is not to be messed with. Would hopefully have also picked up some consumable items and things along the way. But hey, my Sky Pirate could dual shot, so we roll twice for defense. So it's 1 damage, they rolled a 4, no defense. There's a damage done. Second shot, and they got a 6, so they don't take any damage. The Fixer would get to attack. We roll a die because they're just a mercenary. 2 means they hesitated and did nothing. Oh dear, it's not going very well. Vizier would get to go and roll a 3. They heal back to full. Well, heal 1, which is back to full for them in this case. And a 1 means they hesitate and don't do anything. Okay, Sky Pirates, it's a new turn. Let's dual shot again. Okay, first defense is going to be a 4, no defense. A damage. 6, no damage taken. Oh dear. The Fixer, what are you going to do? They rolled a 2, which they're hesitating again. This is not the time to be hesitating. Okay, the Vizier is going to attack with a 5. They're applying Disorient again, but I've already got Disorient. It's stuck on me, which is actually my Sky Pirate finished. So I don't know if the Fixer's going to do anything here. And they go again. Come on, hesitate. Oh dear. 6. Blast for 2 and ignore armor. Okay, well, I have lost the tutorial fight, but hey, for an example, I did go in a bit underprepared. So at the end of this, if you manage to succeed, there are these legacy cards that can get shuffled in as extra options for your future games, like spells, equipment, traits that you can take along with you, giving you extra workers, giving you extra attacks. There is a great big scenario book. You will unlock more Nemesis that have different priorities, different stats for exploring and moving around. The normal game, the Vizier is an enemy to everyone and can fight against stuff, but you can have hidden roles and an imposter where one person is on the side of the Mad Vizier if you want to play competitive like that. You can get personal agendas that you're trying to fulfill. You can build cities of glory. There's one with portals that you are trying to close before Judgment Day occurs, or you could be, having hidden roles and someone working on the side of trying to make Doomsday happen. There are special locations you can add in if you are playing cooperative that will let you investigate them, and then you'll be taken to different events that you can make choices in based on the scenario that you're playing, different outcomes of those events. So much stuff across like 9 different scenarios. The tutorial one is number 0. Loads of different modes of play for each of those that are different. The roles and things that are available are different based on the scenario that it is. Different buildings, abilities, skill trees, passives, champions for each of the houses. Loads of different laws, events, mercenaries, creatures to fight, consumable items to gather, and legacy items and abilities to gather as you play and play. Again, this is on Kickstarter right now. I'll put a link in the description to the campaign page so you can see even more stuff that's going to be included, what all of the final things are going to look like, and how you can get hold of the game and make it happen if I've piqued your interest. If you'd like to see more from me, you can subscribe to the channel if you like. There are hundreds more things on here. But thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you for the next game. Bye everyone.